and distinguished speakers that are here present with us, and for you to be prompt here today is an overt and attestation of your passion and love for this program. So once more, we want to welcome you for your physical presence. We want to assure you that this place is very safe, congenial, so be relaxed. Don't be in a haste.
Adult and non-formal education. Professor A.N. Ogun, during the Environmental Parliament held on Wednesday, 9 July 2025 at the Faculty of Education Auditorium. The Vice Chancellor, sir, Deputy Vice Chancellors in absentia, members of the Council here present, Dean of the Faculty of Education, Deans of other faculties, keynote speaker, Reverend Dr. Nimo Basi, MFR, other distinguished speakers, heads of departments, esteemed professors, directors of institutes and centers here present, administrative and technical staff, representatives of NGOs and CEOs here present, distinguished friends and guests, members of the press, unique students of Uniport, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to welcome everyone to this significant event, which is the first of its kind in the Department of Adult and Non-Formal Education, University of Port Harcourt. I'm particularly honored to have our keynote speaker, Reverend Dr. Nimo Basi, MFR, and other speakers here. Sir, you're highly welcome. I appreciate your presence. I know how busy you are, but you have made time to be with us today. We appreciate you. The Environmental Parliament, which we are hosting today, is one of the strategies meant to achieve a blend of academic knowledge and knowledge of strategies for action in solving various environmental issues, especially in the Niger Delta region. The theme, Educate to Liberate, Advancing Environmental Justice Through Learning, emphasizes the transformative power of education in empowering individuals and communities to take action on environmental justice issues.
Nimo Basi is an architect, writer, poet, and director of the ecological think tank, home of Mother Earth Foundation, based in Nigeria and having branches in South Sudan, Togo, and the United States of America. He serves on the steering committee of Oil Watch International, a network resisting the expansion of fossil fuels extraction in the global south. Today, you will hear lived oil in the ground. He chaired Friends of the Earth International between 2008 and 2012. He also serves on the boards of many other organizations and networks, including the Global Alliance for the Rights of Nations. He was a co-recipient of the 2012 Rights Livelihood Award, also known as the Alternative Nobel Prize. In 2012, he received the RAFTO Human Rights Award. He received Nigeria's National Honor of Member of the Federal Republic, MFR, in 2014. Comrade Nimo Basi, as he wished to be called, received honorary doctorate degrees from the University of York, United Kingdom in 2019, and from the York University, Canada in 2023. In 2024, Comrade Reverend Bassey received the Wallenberg Medal from the University of Michigan. Like he said earlier, he's a writer. He has published not less than 20 books. The Dean, the professors, and ladies and gentlemen, the students, I hereby present our keynote speaker, Reverend Dr. Nemo Bassey.
Department, professors, comrades, students, great students of Uniport, the greatest of the greatest students of Uniport. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a very big pleasure for me and colleagues to be part of this environmental parliament. And I want to thank the Faculty of Education for hosting this event. It's also a big delight to know that this is the very first session. And what a privilege it is for us to be part of the beginning of a journey that will certainly bring about changes, not only in our lives, but in the life of our nation. Health and Model Foundation, which I direct, has a long history of partnership with the University of Port Harcourt. We co-host the Right Livelihood campus right here in the University of Port Harcourt, and that has been championed by Professor Fidelis Alain over the years, and it is a venue for students to organize and learn to live meaningful lives, the lives of courage, lives that push for the truth, a life that shows to the world that it's possible to live differently and to live in a way in which justice is promoted and everyone has a right to live in dignity. It is my hope that today, as many of you will join the Young Environmentalist Network, you also sign up for the Right Livelihood Lecture, Right Livelihood Campus, which is right here in the University of Port Harcourt. Having said that, I want to also say that the faculty, I was given a very interesting topic, the theme. And the good thing about being a keynote speaker is that I could dance in any direction. I can go to Afghanistan, I can go to the United States. I can speak on diverse aspects of the topic because my job is to challenge all of us to think differently concerning the issues in focus. Right from when I was a student, and I'm still a student because life, as long as we're alive, we have to keep on learning. I agree with the notion that our schooling should not interfere with our education. You are all in the University of Port Harcourt to learn, to study, to pass exams. Am I right? Is there anybody here who doesn't want to pass exams? You all want to leave the university with a certificate. I went through the University of Port Harcourt. But that is not the hallmark of education. Hoisting a certificate or showing that you have this or that. It is not. The university will challenge you to think, to learn, to be critical about what's going on around you. The university gives you the tools to be human in the community of other humans. Your schooling equips you to get an education. So schooling is the stage towards an education. So it's excellent to in school. But if all you end up doing is cramming and passing exams, then you miss a huge opportunity. And that is why I think what is happening in the Department of Adult and Non-Formal Education is so critical for all of us. so critical, because that is what is going to give you the keys that you need to be able to bring about changes that are positive in our society. Now, educate to liberate from what? Are we in bondage? Are things going so badly in our society? Are we locked on the wrong path of doing things? I could ask a series of rhetorical questions in that dimension, and all know the answer would be yes, 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 yes. It's one thing to lower the flag at independence. It's another thing to assume leadership as a sovereign nation. Nigeria gained flag independence in 1960. We had a colonially inspired national anthem. Then we had a government that is in power now, and they said there was a change of anthem. Then we said, okay, we're going back to the colonial anthem. Today we sang it. And so when you have a situation where you are in a trade bill, you're not going forward, you're going forward and going back, going forward and going back, going forward and going back, we need to have an education that will liberate us and put us in a positive direction. And one thing that Thomas Sankara said, you can fight effectively only against things that you understand well. And you can't win unless you are convinced your fight is just. If you're just playing games, you are not interested in justice, you will fall for anything. You will dance to any beat or any tune. You will be here today like our politicians. You will be in APC today, PDP tomorrow, ADC tomorrow. You move because you have nothing restraining you. No ideals, no focus. That is what happens to people who are not educated, who don't have principles, who don't have core values, who dance to any wind that blows. So Sankara said, you can only fight effectively, and please take note of this. We've got leaders in Africa who were very inspiring. And unfortunately, many of them were truncated by people who don't want the continent to move forward. You can fight effectively against things you understand well. This is what we're in school to do, to understand things, to be able to question things and unearth those covered up roots of injustice. You know, I like this picture of the galaxies. Let's go back to that slide of the galaxies. Think. And I just want us to look at that. Can you see the sun is in the middle? The biggest ball there, the ball in the middle, that's the sun. And then you have so many other bodies in the Milky Ways, and you have, they said, the Earth. You know, the astronomers took this picture, trying to point out where the Earth is. The Earth is so tiny, you can't even spot it in a big picture of this form. What does it tell you? We should be humble, because we are so infinitesimal in the galaxies in which we have been placed. And so we see people fighting over inconsequential things. Focus on greed, on how to grab this or grab that. It just shows that we don't understand our place in the scheme of things. If we do, we'll be joining hands and standing solidarity and doing the right thing. Now we go forward. What is education? I shouldn't ask this question in the Faculty of Education. Otherwise, I'll be in trouble. Because this is all you do, dissecting, learning, explaining, writing, with 20 footnotes to one word. But you know, education should bring us to the state of knowing. And the state of knowing goes beyond knowing facts that you're learning in class. It gets to the state of knowing who you are. The knowingness of our personality, of our conscious. Our antennas are out every time. When you see things, you don't judge by the face value, where you are aware of the forces behind those things. When you have that knowing of your position, your responsibility, and you are aware of the forces ranged around you, you are able to liberate, to bring about liberation. If you don't know, you are not aware, you are asleep. How many of you are asleep right now? Raise your hands. All those who are asleep. I see those who are asleep are really, really asleep. You can't raise your hands who are asleep. And the essence of being, knowing who are you and what are you here for. Popular education would mobilize. The greatest force for mobilization for change. And mobilizing for change happens in every area of life. For you all to be here in this auditorium requires some mobilization. And that was because you were given the right information about what was going to happen here. I don't think anybody was compelled. If you don't come here, you're going to be expelled from the university. No. You were told to come here to learn. Sometimes you're required to be propelled, to be forced. And that is okay, provided you are being pushed in the right direction. I decided to share this picture because that's a spot I used to go to in Ogoni, to sit at the foot of that palm tree to meditate pollution. I wonder, when will this creek ever be clean? Over time, that chunk was washed away by coastal erosion. But still, the pollution remains. Because even in the UNEP report, Goi was excluded. There was no reference to Goi. And Goi is a community that was the members of that community were totally displaced by oil spill-related fire. And they have no oil well. They have no pipeline. But the oil came on the creek, caught fire, and destroyed the community. And so when you see people fighting, say, I'm the host community, I'm the one who has the oil well. There are others who don't have oil wells. They're all suffering the same consequences of destructive extractivism as you are. And we need to be sure, we should convince ourselves that as long as you live in the Nile Delta, you are a host to horrors. Now, why is it difficult for people to change their mindsets when it comes to trying to understand what is the what impedes education? What impedes the forces that should make us think differently? The big issue is the persistent coloniality, which in simple language is persistent colonial mentality. And coloniality occurs in many dimensions. There's coloniality of power, there's coloniality of being, there's coloniality of knowledge. Coloniality of knowledge. I want to focus on that just a little bit. But of course, the coloniality of power is about the dominant power structures that sustain colonial relations while remaining invisible. For example, Nigeria is very happy to be a member of the Commonwealth. We would like to have Commonwealth scholarships with Commonwealth prizes. But what is the Commonwealth? It's a collection of people groups who were colonized by Britain. So they influence our thinking, influence our politics, influence our education, influence so many things, almost every sphere of life. But we don't see it as colonial, but that's exactly what the Commonwealth is. It's a colonial structure to ensure that the coloniality of power holds us bound, and this is one thing that we need to be liberated from. Are we still together? Okay, we'll move forward. Coloniality of knowledge is one thing that we in Health of Mother Foundation and partners work a lot to decolonize our knowledge systems. And coloniality of knowledge talks about the influence of colonialism on domains of knowledge production. This is why we began what we call culture and environment programs. Cultural development programs We have certain days for poetry, some days for fiction, for on the book day. We have other days for drama, for movies. And very soon we're going to have music days. I will just spend that day in education, bring a significant personality, represent that what we're talking about, and then we learn. And the last book day we hosted was, our guest was King, His Royal Majesty King Obaraye Dakolo, who is the king in the Petroleum Kingdom of Bayelsa State. He's the chairperson of the Bayelsa State Council of Chiefs, or Traditional Rulers Council. Now, we need to have people who are conscious, and so we listen to writers who are conscious about the environment, who are conscious about our culture, who know what is going wrong. That man he's written about 5 books in the last few years, one of the most popular being The Riddle of the Oil Thief. The Riddle of the Oil Thief. And it explains that if you're looking for the oil thief in the Niger Delta, you will not see them. Because the oil thieves are either in Abuja or Lagos or London or New York. They are living large, they have private jets, they have yachts, they are living, they send some errand boys to go to the creeks. They can't stay in the creeks. They can't survive the suit. So if you're looking for oil thieves here, you're wasting your time. They might even be in the National Assembly or in the big state houses around the country. Not in our creeks, not here. And so we need to decolonize our knowledge systems, listen to people who can feel what we feel, who know what we should know, and who can inspire us to be liberated from a knowledge system that truncates and holds us in ways that we cannot move to build a better future. So, we're making good progress. This slide, the message about this slide is that there are many ways of non-formal education. And the photo that is on display is made up with shows of women in sustainability villages in Uganda. They have what they call sustainable villages, and the government has tried to close down the sustainable villages, but they are not physical structures. They are ideas. You don't have this, the academies is not a building, so you cannot go and blockade the place. The academy is everywhere, in people's homes, in people's ideas, and are dissecting and discussing the challenges in the society. Just like in Kenya once, there was what was called the Street Junction College, where laborers wait at corners, street corners, waiting for people to hire them on a daily basis. Maybe you have that in Port Harcourt. Where there are thousands of people waiting at the street corners with machetes, with shovels and big axes, waiting to employ. And then some people went there while they are waiting to be hired to discuss. You have the School of Ecology. Many of your students have attended our schools of ecology. Professor Mbalisi was one of the last session that we had. I found your students, those who came, really showed brilliance. And I know that you have very brilliant students in the University of Port Harcourt. Am I right? Through our schools of ecology, we dissect what are the ecological challenges, what are the political roots of the challenges that we face, and what can we do. So we use the schools as a space for learning, for knowing, for understanding, in a way that propels you to act and bring about change. Some other groups in places like South Africa, they have activist schools. They meet for about 1 month at a time to learn about how to fight for justice. There are leadership schools in Nigeria. Some sessions meet right here in Port Harcourt at Kabet Women Development and Resource Center at the G-Line area, They have leadership schools where people are trained how to be good leaders and not be swinging with the wind. We have wilderness schools. I was privileged to be in a wilderness school somewhere near Marikana in South Africa. It's in a place labeled as the cradle of mankind. And it's a true wilderness. And especially when young people are learning leadership skills, they are learning critical, how to think about issues critically, how not to just swallow whatever comes your way. But whenever a concept comes, you find out what is the history behind that concept. Because there's hardly anything new under the sun. Almost every concept has a history. As the wilderness school, the seeding climate justice is another experience in Mozambique. Seeding climate justice. And what they do is to study the origins and unfolding patterns of impunity and how to fight against impunity. And of course, there are also social formations that brings those sectors that sometimes we ignore, like the Fishnet Alliance, which we co-founded, that brings about fishermen across the continent who are fighting against extractive activities in water bodies. All these are arenas of non-formal education. And the whole objective is to equip both those who know and those who are not aware of what is going on, to give them the knowledge that makes them stand up and fight for their rights and the rights of other beings that we share the planet. And then we have what we term the diagnostic dialogues, which is very simple. It's one thing that really I've been very much blessed by. When we go to communities, what we need to sit down and be quiet and let the communities take over the process. And we'll be shocked at how much knowledge is available in our villages. Just that when we go, they say, okay, the experts have come, sit down, we're going to educate you, we give you this version, and you finish talking, and then they say, okay, where's our bedroom? Or where's the refreshment? And they go home and nothing sank in. When you write a big report, good pictures, you've done a lot, or you've done nothing. And so we go to communities and sit down, let them talk to us, let them examine their history. What was your community like 20 years ago, 40 years ago? What is it like now? What has been the change? Do you like the change? Would you like to change what you have now? And if you want to change it, how can we accompany you in that struggle? Within a day or two, you have a whole manifesto from community people by themselves. It's a very, very strong learning process. And sometimes, they do things like this picture, the picture in the last slide. I like the way you're moving, okay, before this. She knows what I'm going to say before I say it, because we work together. Okay, this particular picture was taken at Makoko in Lagos. Makoko is a floating community, just like many in the Niger Delta. It's underserved, there's no sanitation, there's hardly any electricity, there's no clean water, but people are happy and they're living there. So we had a school of ecology there. But Prof, when we got there, the people were, they turned it into a festival. They were drumming and singing and dancing for hours. So we told ourselves that today, our learning is to know that when you go to some places, they will not follow your templates. It's not every community that will let you impose your template on their reality. So if they want to dance the whole day, allow them to dance the whole day. They want to sing the whole day, join them and sing the whole day. Because every song they raise tells a story. Every song they raise was a testament about what they don't like and about what they like. Now, why do we need to be liberated? Because everyone should be a sovereign, and we should be fighting for self-determination is a right. It's a globally recognized right. So it is wrong when people are oppressed and suppressed because they say, I'm standing for self-determination. People must have the right to determine how they want to organize their lives, how they want to organize their society, how they want to enjoy the resources that God has given them, and what they want to do with their lives. Provided it doesn't interfere with other people's right to self-determination and their own well-being. Because in a society such as we live in, there must be plus and additions and subtractions to accommodate one another. So the black power matters, the black lives matters. Black lives matters in the United States. The three key things they fight for is one, to have self-respect, right to self-defense, and the right of self-determination. And self-respect is critical in gaining liberation. If you don't have any self-respect, you don't have regard for yourself, you don't hold yourself in esteem, you don't esteem who you are. You are always feeling like you are nothing. Then your eyes cannot see the future. You only will see where your feet is located. But brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, education in the University of Port Harcourt should make you lift up your head. So when you sing uni report, when you sing that song, you know that yes, you went through a citadel of learning, and you can hold your head up and see far into the horizon, and then build the plans that will lead you to that location. That is what education for liberation should do for all of us. And we have a job for that. So you must set your values, set your targets, and also understand what your interests are. Now, liberation is not something you do alone. When we talk about society, you must organize. You have to organize. There must be community agency. You have to fight to overturn the basic injustices, and you have to build networks. A lot of people like to stand alone. Or you stand alone, you know, African saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, go with somebody. You want to be fast, go alone. Nobody to restrain you. Nobody tells you made a mistake, come back. This is what we are doing. Just go wherever you feel like. You'll be very fast. But as far as you are in the wrong direction, you can never get to the right destination. As long as you walk in the wrong direction, you can never reach the right destination. All right, I think I need to run very fast. As I've been speaking, we have to all challenge the system, challenge oppression, challenge environmental injustice, awake and acknowledge what is going on around you, and build connections. There's a slide on transition. Transition for whom and from what and to where. If you look in detail at the units on that slide, you find that there are so many areas, so many things to consider when you talk about transition. In fact, when you hear about energy transition alone will not give you the transition that you need. What we all need is a just transition. And a just transition is not only energy. When a system keeps, the factors within a system keeps working against your interest, just trying to pick out those factors may not give you the solution you need. The best solution is to change the system. That's what you heard about system change. It is overthrowing the systems of oppression, of wickedness, of injustices. It's a picture. Can we move forward? Yes. How many of you know this place? Ogoni land. How many of you have been to Ogoni before? Can I see your hand up? Okay, put your hand. How many of you are Ogoni? Only 2 or 3, including me. 4. Now, but you all look at Ogoni people. It doesn't matter, you are all Ogoni. Now, that is the result of oil pollution. I think this is Kedere. It's right on the highway, the road. This picture was taken from the road, on the bridge. And there's a sign there, hyper polluted, contaminated, but keep off. Public notice. We have this replicated across the region. In Bayelsa, in Ondo State, Akwa State, Delta State, everywhere you go, you have zones of sacrifice. And liberation means fighting to change that paradigm and that experience. And to make this fight successful, we all have to stand up for resource democracy, which emphasizes stewardship and trusteeship. We're all trustees of nature, of Mother Earth. We have a duty and obligation of not disrupting the natural cycles of nature. Our job, our duty, obligation is to live and relate to nature in a way that does not harm or break the cycles, because nature has all it takes to give us a good life. And because of the disruptive nature of extractivism, of colonial extractivism, we harm nature and we harm ourselves. When you harm nature, you harm yourself. Wisdom of our relations with nature, which must not be left to speculators, manipulators of users of market forces to manipulate and commodify nature. And that picture says a lot. Say in the forest, animals do not leave trash. Humans do. You ever see animals leaving trash? You see animals leaving rubbish? They don't. And so we call it that we should behave like animals. You are laughing, but you are all animals, aren't you? Yeah. We are all beings. That's what we call human beings. The animals are beings too. Let's copy the beings who are living right. They don't take beyond what they need. They don't accumulate to oppress others. They don't wage wars to claim them, and so on and so forth. Okay, now I'm going to the conclusion. So pay attention. Conclusion. Everybody say conclusion. Conclusion. Tell your neighbor, pay attention. He's about to conclude. All right. Now, here a lot of murmuring going on, especially in this sector. So, in conclusion, if we're going to liberate ourselves, the education that will liberate us is education that is leading us to a good life. In my language, we call a good life etumen. Etumen, that is a good life. Every culture in Africa has a word for the good life. In the southern part of Africa, they call it Ubuntu, which means my humanity is connected with your own humanity. In East Africa, they have the concept of Alambre, which means pulling together, cooperating together to bring about positive changes. So all of us as students, as you grow up, your aim should be to live a good life, to live a good fragrance wherever you go, to live in harmony, to have the greatness of heart, to be accommodating, to respect others and to respect yourself, to be generous. Generosity is one of the biggest virtues that any human being can have. Because when you are generous, others will be generous towards you. To be kind, to love. Many societies, I've been to many communities in Niger Delta when we have meetings and I ask the elders, what is the thing that is lacking in this village? And almost without fail, they tell me what is lacking is love. There's so much conflict. Love is a strong force that liberates. Hate holds you in bondage. And so you know the truth, you share the truth, you can build love, walk in peace, and of course, be selfless about it all. And finally, why must we be educated? What is the end of our education? What is the end of our education? One, to understand our narratives and analysis, to understand our story. What is the story of your life? What's the story of your community? What's the story of Nigeria? And what must that story be changed to be? Education helps you do that. We're educated to learn how to build bridges, to harness discontent. When people are not happy, when people are not content with what is going on, it's for you to harness that spirit of discontent and build. When everybody becomes discontent to a particular system, then change is about to happen. But when we also can manage, managers are always in bondage. How many managers do we have in the house? Managers. You have to become directors. And then you have to keep the big picture. You are educated to see the big picture and to keep the big picture. And then it's also your job. We publish a magazine called The Instigator. because we aim to instigate resistance to things that keep people in bondage. We publish stories, poetry, reports, and all our actions. We call our teachers instigators. No, we're not just collecting knowledge. And if all I've done is to give you facts and figures, I would have failed woefully. My hope is that the few things I've shared with you will instigate you to begin to examine things, to think about your life, think about your future. Dream that future you want to get to, and then begin now to build the pathway to that future state. And I thank you for your attention.
What I picked from his lesson, amongst many things he said, was that when we harm nature, nature has a way of posing a harm to us. So it all boils down to the fact that we all have to work collectively to ensure a clean and healthy environment for us all to survive. Kebekase, for the past 20 years, has been advocating for environmental justice. And my Executive Director, Dr. Yamokona, has always collaborated with a lot of other CSOs to ensure that we advocate for a cleaner environment. And so, it is now in your court. This collaborative meeting was intended to also inspire younger generation to see the need for the fight that the living ancestors and the other CSOs have been fighting in the Nigeria. You may not understand. Kebekase carried out a research last year at Otuabali in Bayelsa State, and among the 80 women that were tested, hydrocarbon was found in their blood. You may not have been tested, so you may not know the health impact that you are suffering already. So that is why it is very important for you and I to see this call as a clarion call for you to stand up and advocate for a better environment. Thank you.
Our living ancestors have said a lot about environment and how we are currently being affected by the activities that go on in the environment. It is shocking to know that even as you're here in this hall, if we test your blood right now, we'll see heavy metals in your blood, we'll see other pollutants in your bloodstream. It means that if you live up to 40, God bless you, you are indeed an ancestor. But what will be our key takeoff from this event today? I'd like to say that our key takeoff from this event today, as people in the Department of Non-Formal Education, should be, Prof, that we set up, indeed, an environmental parliament in this department. I have some students who came for internship some months ago, and they were asking, what can they do with this degree? And we thought a lot. And in setting up this environmental parliament, we can do a lot from that. You all are on Facebook, you're on Twitter, you're on TikTok, and you're doing a lot, which perhaps helps you individually. But what we are here to talk about today is what you can do as a collective to make change. If a parliament does not make change, it is indeed playing on its own. It's not representing anybody, it's doing nothing. But the most important function of the parliament for me, under this caption, is the third function of it, which is what? Oversight function.
It resonates deeply that this program is of immense importance to the sustainability of our environment, and the need to educate young minds and the next generation cannot be overemphasized. Nigerian Environmental Society is a community of researchers, academics, industry experts, and professionals who have passion to sustain and impact the environment deeply. The Nigerian Environmental Society and the Waste Management Society of Nigeria sponsored a bill to the National Assembly for the institution of Institute of Environmental Professionals of Nigeria. And as we speak, That bill has been signed and the first members have received their seal. I expected a round of applause. As part of our activities to mark the year 2025, the Rivers State Chapter of NES plans on executing and establishing environmental clubs in various institutions in Rivers State. And these are very soon you'll see more of us.
All these issues, where did you get them from? But I know you are the way I don't know.
You know now, I know to be my husband. You know Zina, my friend. She's been the one going to the river. So she collects fish and permit from the river. Me, I'll just buy. You know she's my friend, so she sells very cheap for me. And she gives me food sometimes when she takes to the market and sell for people. She's not I'm very for months now.
Wait, Zina.
Zina?
The same Zina that I've been going to do that I told you not to go to.
I've not been going, but she's going.
No wonder. No wonder I've been feeling sick. So you've been poisoning me.
What do you mean poison?
If you try to not to get anything from that is the right way I thought I would have been there. Hey!
I don't understand. What do you mean?
I think it. And I've been doing herbs. You think that they're not happy for once when why I've been drinking those herbs. Hey!
Madu, I thought it's a normal person.
Take it out, take it out. Take it out.
Somebody help me! Neighbors! Oh, neighbors! Hey! Somebody help me!
This oil, that thing like our river, brothers. You see? Knock it down. This is abomination. Our people say it's abomination. It's all hydrogen. Hey! I said it. All these people come in oil company, oil with. Look at what they have done now. And you see what they are talking about. We have lost our right. Oh, no. We must do something. This nonsense must stop. The youth must learn this. No.
What do you want? Environmental justice. Where? Nigeria Delta. When? What do you want? Environmental justice. Where? When? What do you want? Environmental justice. Where? When? What do you want?
People. This one don't pay us well. It don't pay us. The Niger Delta biodiversity has suffered great loss. Oil spillage has made a mess in our land and our environment. Our livelihood, our source of livelihood is nowhere to be found. What happened to our fishermen? What happened to the fishes and the snails in the water? What do we do now? We have nothing left out because of the so-called oil spillage. Our environment has been devastated. What are we going to do? We are left with nothing. Our children are becoming sick. Our parents are going hungry. Nothing to show for because of the so-called oil spillage and oil company penetrating into our waterways. We are so angry. We don't like it.
Very last crop out here, the children know the smell of this woman before they know the smell of rain. Niger Delta,
Professor Fidelis Allen. Professor Fidelis Allen is a professor of development studies and the Department of Political Science and Administrative Studies, University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria. Professor Allen obtained his Doctor of Philosophy degree from the School of Politics, Faculty of Human Science, University of KwaZulu-Natal, Petersburg, South Africa, with the prestigious doctoral research award of Canada's International Development Research Center, administered by the University of Peace Africa Program, UPeace, Ethiopia. The University of KwaZulu-Natal also awarded him a doctoral scholarship. Professor Allen was a two-time director of the Center for Conflict and Gender Studies, University of Port Harcourt, 2015 to 2019. He also served as head of the Political Administration Studies Department and is currently the director of the Center for Politics, University of Port Harcourt. Professor Allen has published widely in peer-reviewed journals and boasts of several book chapters. His research interests include environmental politics, climate policy, natural resource governance and conflict management, gender, and democracy. Professor Allen was judged for several local and international organizations. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor to now invite to the podium this academic jubilant, a researcher par excellence, and the current director, Center for Politics, University of Port Harcourt. Let's put our hands together for Professor Fidelis Allen. I've been given a topic to talk on. I'm aware of the fact that we spent a lot of time already. So I will do my best to be brief. The topic suggests that the formal environment which we have found ourselves as students and as teachers is important for environmental education. The idea of the pedagogy of the oppressed suggests that environmental justice goals, environmental education can also be derived through communication, interaction with those that have lived experience, those that are in struggle for environmental justice. Which is why I would like to just draw your attention to two realities. One, as young people, as students, the possibility of transiting from the university system to the broader society and being able to impact that society is a function of the kind of training that connects you properly with community. Now, the pedagogy of the oppressed is about the learning that occurs not necessarily within the formal classroom environment. And this is the idea that real change in society must move from this environment you found yourself, or must depend on what lot to do with the connection you have while you are a student with community. Now, the global economic system, the economic system in Nigeria is highly reliant on the extractive sector, which means that the economy, politics, policy have been wired in ways that support the goal of the state, the goal of the Nigerian state. Now, the goal of the global economic system is about benefits that humanity or man can derive even at the detriment of the non-human world. And so both the global economic and political elite and national or local political and economic elite agree on this fact that man's interest is superior to the interest of the non-human world. Whereas the idea should be that of balancing the interest of man and the interest of the non-human world. Now, the pedagogy of the oppressed suggests that we also have to be sensitive to the narratives we find in community. And when I say community, I'm really talking about a broader society. And so because we have a world that values money more than environment, we have a world that values financial wealth more than the environment. We have seen elite groups that have continued to promote narratives that have to be properly analyzed, and that has to happen based on skill, training that as young people you have. Are we able to disaggregate narratives in a way that places the wrong one at one end and the other at the other end? What we have actually found over the years in the post-colonial state is a basket of narratives that all align with one goal, and that is more extraction, more money, more growth. More extraction, more money, more growth. What this means is that at the center of the problem that we have regarding the environment is the development model that we cherish as a people. And the elites are responsible for this. It is instructive that as students, some of you are likely to join the elite that promotes the growth-oriented model of development where extraction of natural resources, abuse of power, abuse of the environment have become common. Now, some of you are likely to join that class of people who are already into this if you're not careful. So So what this really means is that environmental justice is completely different from the growth-oriented analysis that we have seen, which the political class promotes. And at some point, the World Bank was even at the center of funding studies that promote extractivism. And so, within the academic environment, we need to have a mass of young people who have skill to critically respond to narratives that destroy rather than protect the environment. And I want to really say that it is difficult to find in the contents of formal education some of the things, or many of the things and ideas that you find with community and these structures. Formal education will not provide certain ideas that are good for struggles, but these other structures are great in terms of what you can gain by equipping yourself with those ideas and skills, so that in your own small corner in your community, you can do the change that the community wants. Thank you very much.
My name is John D. Perfect Uche Araji. I am the co-creator of the Rooted Rising Initiative. And for Rooted Rising, we tell stories. We amplify the voices of communities, marginalized communities. We try to tell stories that are not just sounding nice, but they are centered in justice, they are centered in funding, and they are centered in the solution that we are looking forward to. This is a good time to clap for Rooted Rising. So I want to go on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and type Rooted Rising Initiative and follow. We'll be accepting your stories from your communities as we are happy to amplify them. And this is because I was only 8 years old when I first saw a gas fest stand. I was so excited about it. My twin sister can attest to that. We would climb story buildings, and then we were so excited. It was a beautiful thing to behold. And then 2 years ago, my brother would be diagnosed of asthma. And then, for the first time I saw my father cry, my mother had an attack in the night, and then my father was weeping. I can still remember that still fresh, and I can still remember them very well. We had water rising into our thresholds, sea level rises. And for us, we were transferred to a community to go and serve because my father is a pastor, and as a cleric family, we had to live in a church mission where people with sickness and diseases would come to find solace, spiritual solace per se. You know, for them it was prayer. But we were coming with sicknesses like respiratory illnesses, cardiovascular diseases, cancer, leprosy and all of that. And then it would take me years to understand that last flag that I was actually admiring was not actually a beautiful sight to behold.
Dr. Samuel Paul is an environmental professional, climate change specialist, project manager, and sustainable expert with over a decade of experience in the industry and development sector. He holds a PhD in environmental toxicology, an MSc in environmental and conservation biology, University of Port Harcourt, and a BSc in biological science, Benue State University. He currently serves as a project officer under the environmental pillar and stakeholder democracy network, SDN. Dr. Paul has led or contributed to major environmental initiatives, including gas tracker, oil spill monitor, and a prototype methane emission tracker. Device for NOSRA and several other projects being implemented by SDM. It played a key role in Nigeria's Environmental Performance Index (EPI) reports and has engaged the National Assembly on environmental policy reform. Dr. Paul is also a member of the multi-stakeholders team independently monitoring the Ogoni cleanup project under this Liberate, a member of the Nigerian Circular Economy Working Group, NCEWG, and also a member of the multi-stakeholder platform, MSP, for the effective implementation of the Host Community Trust, HCPT, under the IPIA 2021. It supports the formulation of strategies for resource efficiency and waste reduction. Dr. Paul is affiliated with the Association of Environmental Impact Assessment of Nigeria, AEIAN, an affiliate of IAIA, the Nigerian Environmental Society, NEF, where he served as Student Week Coordinator, Liberate State Chapter, the West African Society of Toxicology, WASOT, Royal Society of Biology, RSB, in the United Kingdom. I am humbled, my dear so far, having the privilege to present to you an environmental advocate, campaigner, and a global leader. Just sit down and listen to you and to share his wealth of knowledge with you. Thank you.
Education for sustainable development. A few minutes ago, when the living ancestor was making his presentation, he tried to explain effectively what education is all about. And if I got him correctly, he explained that education is not schooling. That schooling is just an aspect of education. So what is now sustainable development? Sustainable development is a development that enables the present generation to take care of their needs, but not impacting the ability of the future generation to take care of their own needs. And that drops a question to us. Some of the things we do today in the name of development, in terms of having oil and gas infrastructure and all of that, is it truly development? Does it really enable the future generation to take care of their own needs? That's the question I like to leave in your heart. So, the Niger Delta is a very beautiful place. Some of our fathers that were here many, many years ago before the discovery of oil have given testimonies as to how beautiful this place was. But unfortunately today, it has become the most ecologically and economically critical region in Nigeria. It has now been impacted by our own activities in the name of development. Now, we see quite a lot of pictorial representations about the states of certain areas in the Niger Delta. How that people that are supposed to be living in wealth, now living in penury. I have a popular quote from the living ancestor during the Niger Delta Alternative Convergence. He said, and I quote it, "Niger Delta has undeniably been a sacrificial zone that has suffered environmental degradation for not less than 7 decades due to oil and gas extraction activities, and therefore needs total restoration for the well-being of our people. If you see most of our places, these are some of the pictures you see in some of our communities when you go to some of the communities. Next slide. You see, because of oil and gas activities, our people's livelihood has been taken away from them. You see women from the side, they are searching for periwinkle as some of the livelihood sources they used to have. But unfortunately, these places are now being contaminated by operations of the oil and gas sector. Now, the question now is, what is the role of education in solving this problem? We know there is problem. We know there's problem of systemic underdevelopment and several other issues. What does education do for us? I listened earlier when the living ancestor was speaking. He talked about how that education liberates us. He talked about how it provides knowledge, how it creates for us a level of awareness. Knowledge, it also provides for us skills. It also increases our value system and as well influence our attitude. So we don't look beyond what we do today and forget about the implication of our actions of today for tomorrow. We are talking about education. So what are the prospects of education in terms of sustainable development? What does it do for us in the Niger Delta? Proper education will drive community-based solutions. And that is some of the things that the civil society organizations now do. By taking education to communities and having these people go through the process of understanding what the issues are, to spur them to now generate community-based solutions. This type of education as well promotes what we call community monitoring. And for when people, members of the communities are properly educated, they will be the ones now to begin to report certain activities in their communities. I'm also happy today that the school is talking about forming a youth network. Environmental youth network here. And one of the challenges that I have mentioned, casting the way forward, is for us to establish eco-literacy in communities that can drive this process of sustainable development. Now, because we have highlighted that our curriculum is not all encompassing when it comes to do with practical sustainability, it is important that we now embed fully sustainable education for sustainable development when designing our educational strategies. It is also important that we have a multi-stakeholder collaboration, and that is what a lot of civil society organizations do quite a lot. You see so many civil society organizations collaborating to deliver on a project, to reach out to people, to have an understanding of certain concepts. It is also supposed to be partnership between ministries, departments, and agencies of government, and civil society organizations. Those type of partnership, we have a way of presenting the young ones going through the learning process the opportunity to experience in practice what they are taught. And one of such collaborations I'm aware of the, what do you call it now? There's a collaboration between Hyper and Center for Public Health and Toxicology in the University of Port Harcourt, where Liberate is establishing a laboratory. And then we also have several other collaborations and partnerships that the university environment can also go into. Another way of going forward, because of time, is that we design our school curriculum in a tripod, so that young people going through the learning phase understand the place of theoretical knowledge. We have a place for policy learning, and also a place for practical field experience. I know the curriculum is designed in a manner that for young people that are studying science-based courses, they go for 6 months industrial attachment, while some in education courses like this, they go for practical, which I think is done twice, 200 level and then final year families. Okay, so these kind of strategies we need to now be restructured in a manner that they achieve the actual purpose by which they are done. So if we want to truly enjoy education for sustainable development, we must have to now carry along the legislators so that this process can go through very important consideration. As I begin to close, for the Niger Delta to experience true sustainable development, education must move beyond literacy to liberation. And that is what the Union Ancestor nailed on earlier. That education must be able to liberate us. And what is it liberating us from? Ignorance of our rights. And that's the reason why most civil society organizations go to communities to talk to them so that they become conscious of their right as community people. Education also will liberate us from our dependence on extractive economies. We now have a consciousness that our survival is dependent on the pressures of the oil and gas companies in our environment. So, proper education will liberate us from that because over 70 decades ago, before we started extracting oil, people were living in this country and were doing very well. Education also will liberate us from ideas that development must come at the cost of the environment. Any development that comes at the cost of the environment is not a sustainable development. Because at the end of the day, you will not have an environment that will even house that your so-called development. And I quote the living ancestor again. He said the environment is not separate from us. We are the environment. To defend the environment is defend life. To defend life, we must first open our eyes. Education is that opening.
What will you do? Ask your neighbor, what will you do? And that's the challenge I want to share with us today. So, okay, next slide. So, let's go about that. I want to say context. So, I'll tell you a story of how the Liberate vision came about. And I'll tell you also 5 predictions that international predictions have made that affect River State. And I'll end tell you what I think is true about those predictions. So, in November 2022, I was traveling to India for the business meeting. And we had a layover in Qatar. I'm sure our ancestors have got a number of countries that traveled to in the past few decades. But this was one of the experiences that I had. And it was the first time ever that I was passing through Qatar. Qatar is a desert, one of the desert regions, right? In the Gulf region. Just like River State, there are sites, you can see on the screen. It's about 11,000 square kilometers, right? So if you put Qatar and River State side by side, the same size. They have a free population. They have about 2 million people. And for us in River State, the population projection says there are 9 million people. Because we haven't had a census in almost 20 years, which is in good shape. But there are about 9 million people in River State. They don't have water because they're in the middle of the deserts. So you know how we dig borehole and we get water from the ground. They don't have water. They have to take water from the ocean and desalinate it before they can get water to drink. But I kept wondering, how do these people, there at the airport, they had a mangrove forest at the airport, in the middle of the desert. The forest had 300 trees, 25,000 plants. They had trains that don't have driverless trains that took us from one terminal to the other terminal. I was like, wait, I think I was small. I'm not even saying Nigeria, I'm saying River State. Compare us and them. Are we not the same size? And I studied further, and you'll find that every successful nation, region, country always has a vision. If you look at the UAE, for example, United Arab Emirates has a 100-year plan from 1971 to 2071, where they want to become the world's most powerful nation by 2071. Right? Kigali, who talk about Rwanda a lot, has a 2050 vision. Qatar has a 2030 vision. Right? Lagos has a 2022 to 2052 vision. And people always say Lagos is one of the states that actually does very well in this country. And it's all about vision. But much more than vision is also commitment to see, because Nigeria has a lot of vision documents. I can't remember vision 2020. Many of those visions are there. But beyond vision is commitment. How do you have a commitment to moving forward? So, in River State, the last time this state had a vision was in 1975. Back then, it was our first military governor, Commander Alfred JSSP, who was in his 20s, right? Who was in his 20s, like some of us here, right? And he was that young, and he had a vision. It was a 3-year vision, 1975 vision, 1975 to 1980, for how River State can grow out of the Civil War, and how so all the things you see like power breweries, glass, the West African Glass Company, the Secretariat, most of the roads that you see, all of those things were vision that went as far back as 1975. But for 50 years, as a state, we stopped thinking. We stopped dreaming. We started fighting about politics. We started fighting about stealing money. People completely lost our way. And so that's why in February this year, being challenged by everything I had seen in my career, and also the people I've been speaking with as well within the states, we said let's launch the Rivers 2050 Vision Project. Usually the vision project is led by the government, usually. But because our advocacy had almost become tired from asking the government to do this and they refused to do it, we said, okay, we'll challenge them. We'll start this vision project and we'll challenge them and give them the documents to down to the plan with that vision. So in 2026, we started this process. It's close to 4 months now. We've been holding focus group discussions on various thematic areas, education, healthcare. We're speaking this Saturday to the former Commissioner of Health, talking about the future of healthcare. We're going to talk about agriculture, all the 15 thematic areas. And because of my time, I'm not going to all of them, but visit rivers2050.org. You will see all the information, and you also see how you can join us as well to be part of this vision. Now, the 5 predictions I want to share with you from our work so far. We found 5 threats to our existence as a people. 5 threats. Move on. Next slide. And the first threat is power. So in 2028, the International Energy Agency has predicted that for the first time in history, solar would take over from coal as a form of energy worldwide. So these are the world is thinking generally about moving from using fossil fuel as a way of powering their economies and powering their energy to moving towards renewable energy. Most countries, China, everybody's investing heavily in solar energy, wind energy, and various other energy. In River States, our form of energy that we focused on for the past 30-40+ years has been from country down. There was a time when some of the former governments started thinking about having gas turbines, but they never got completed and finished. Some were launched to some communities, got bad, never got fixed. Now the Electricity Act has been signed, which has given states the power to generate their own electricity. We have the wind from Hawaii, we have sun, we have rivers, we have so many things. How are we going to think about energy in the future? Because what will happen is, at some point, we will not be able to get enough energy anymore. I mean, Kanji Dam's generating capacity has reduced over the years, and it continues to reduce. Last year, the national grid fell how many times? 12 times, right? So it continues to happen over and over again. States that are already thinking of how we can move forward with that. The next prediction is that By 2034, the Tyndale Center for Climate Change has said that oil will begin to start getting phased off. And that's a long time, that's 9 years, right? I'm sure our ancestors wants that to do tomorrow, if possible. As soon as possible, because it has destroyed our environment and destroyed our economy. But how would we survive as a state if 100% of our economy is built only on oil? If in 9 years' time, that's just two elections. If in 9 years' time, oil begins to get phased out, and the global economy begins to move towards other forms of energy, how will we survive? We actually need to start now, start planning to diversify our economy. So that's one thing that I don't understand. I don't know this is the next slide. This last slide talks about our population explosion. That's third prediction. By 2035, at our current growth rate, River State's current growth rate is 3.4%. By 2035, currently we have 9 million people. By 2035, we have 30.8 million people who will be born, who will migrate from other states into River State and stuff like that. That's 400,000 people every year will be added to the states. Where will they live? What will they eat? What roads will they drive in? Right? These are the kind of questions that we should need to throw to our leaders. Elections is coming up, right? So these are the kind of questions we can ask them. For the population growth coming, how are we thinking and planning for the future? And some of the points that we have there, go back to the website. Some points we have there are like, we need to start ensuring that we build outwards, expanding satellite towns like Omoku, Bori, Bukuma. People should be able to leave, for example, Bonny, and come work in Port Harcourt and go back to Bonny easily. So these are we need road networks, these are we need to start taking care of how we expand. And take government infrastructure, not just everything in small 11 flyover, we need small things. We need to take it outside, right? And move it to other places. Next question. By 2040, NASA, that's the space agency in the US, has predicted that sea level, that's what someone actually said earlier, sea level rise will grow from currently 11.1 centimeter to 16 centimeter. And as one of the speakers actually said, we are in no land, we're not going to upland. Right? So most of our coastal communities are at the risk of being washed away in the next 15 years. 2041 facts, 15 years, right? 15 years time. What are we thinking about it? Are we going to wait till it happens and then say, help us God, oh, I wish you knew, or are we going to actually start taking proactive steps now to do something about it? There are some ideas that they are missing down. How will it be our infrastructure development? How will we start accessing things like loss and damage funds, which are assets of the house? How those funds can be used to relocate communities? How we can start thinking ahead of time to ensure that we are protecting our mangroves, so those things act as a natural buffer against floods and sea level rise. The picture you see there is not far. Go back to the previous slide. That picture is from Ahuda West. This was 2022. The flood in 2022. Ahuda West is not there. Right? The water has gone to the military level. So I know most times when you hear flood, it sounds far away, but it's coming really close to us. And if we don't add it 15 years time, most of what we do as our city now will be under water. Next slide. The final prediction. In 2045, this is what 20 years from now. I sound very far. I assure you it is not very far. By 2045, Goldman Sachs, which is one of the US agencies, has predicted that 50% of jobs globally could be taken over by generative AI. And whenever these things are said, I'm sure back in the day when bankers were told that at some point the internet will disrupt their industry. I'm sure you remember about the movies, right? To send money, you have to go to a teller. You have to tell her everything. Now we can all send money from our phones, right? And now we're less than 15 years. In 20 years' time, they're saying AI will take 50% of our jobs. And I'm happy I'm speaking to education students because I want this to worry your mind. The question is, what are we going to teach people to prepare them, especially our children? That's the picture of my son. My son was born last year, right? People like him that were born last year, they start working in 2041. By the time they finish school, do NYS, it was in 2041 or 2040. That's 5 years before the whole global work industry gets disrupted. So, as an education student, start thinking, what will we teach people of the future? How will we prepare them? The job of the future, what skills, what soft skills, hard skills they need to build to be able to survive in this particular area. So those are the five questions. I hope that we can do something about it, and I've said that in the next slides. I mean, I put this here just as a form, because it always blows my mind. So this amount you see 2009 and 2019 from a fund called the 13% Graduation Fund. This is not all the money we receive. We see the extra allocation every year for different things monthly, but 13% graduation is the money that's gotten from when Nigeria has sold crude, all the money shared together, 13% now shared to the various states. That's the amount that got $2.7 billion. Does Rivers State look like a place where $2.7 billion has passed? Does it? So the question is why? Where is all that money? Is it people's pockets? Is it people's accounts? I think you used to do things that belong to not to us, the citizens. So we should need to ask questions, right? I think that's the question we should be asking as we go forward to the election. So I'll close this slide. Yeah, what's role? So the question is what role can you? Yes. Yes. So as it relates to the rise of the new I want to believe that the university's place in every developed society is to be like the citadel of not just of learning, but of progress. So like helping people to see what the world can become. Coronavirus vaccine started first in universities. They were first developed there, fixed before they brought it into society. The university system is always a place where it's like a prototype for what society should be. So as it relates to all of these things, oil phase out, rise of renewables, population growth, I think that as students and as a university, as a faculty, I think that we have a role. The role of research. Let's encourage research as it's original. And as my brother, Dr. Sam said, research actually is about our own problems down here, not just copy and paste projects every year that we never ever use. Let's challenge our students to actually do research that will solve our problems currently here. Let's also encourage things like hackathon events. Let me say, students come together, let's think of ideas to particular problems. So population growth is one of them. If we will grow by 4 million over the next 10 years, how can we solve it? How can the schools of the future be designed? And you'll be surprised to see how much knowledge these young people have. Now, by job, we don't hackathon events now for the past 3 years, and we've done it. We did one last year, we did one this year, and we did one the year before. We've seen over 800 come to the thing without any ideas. But just coming, just have an idea of having people around there working with them. They'll be inspired to think of ways to solve problems. And forward to National Assembly, hopefully some of them get added to the national policy and also do work on as well. So I think that's something to think about. Climate adaptation. How can we begin to do pioneer climate adaptation solutions within the university? How can we pioneer climate policy within the university? We say no more plastic bottles or plastic bag. How can the university show society how that can work? How can we have paper bags in the university campus and then show that an example of what things are then coming from the university? So sorry for the time, but this is just a few things I want to share with you guys.
All those in front of the platform, lift your right hand up, if you can, and say after me, I subscribe to the ideals of fighting for environmental justice. As a student, as a youth, I will take it upon myself to do all I necessary to maintain environmental science. I will work selflessly, consciously, intentionally, everywhere I am, at school and out of school. And I will make all of you proud because it's a deep set commitment. It's a deep set commitment. So help me.